Hey everyone, welcome back to our third class of Teen Paint Night. Today we are going to be working on our hardest project by far, so try not to get discouraged if it doesn't turn out well, but we're going to be working on the corgi. It's tricky. It took me a long time to practice to get that dogs and animals down, so bear with me, we'll give it a try and see how everything turns out. So you'll need your reference photo, you'll need your paints, paintbrush, you'll need your cloth, you'll need pencil and eraser, you will need clean water, piece of paper, and let's get started. Okay, so for today's project, we are going to be painting the dog, the corgi. This is much more difficult than the projects we've done in the past 2 weeks. So I want to just repeat that I have been painting for quite a while. Your projects might not look like mine, and that's okay. What painting needs, I don't think that painting is necessarily a talent. I think it's a skill that you develop with practice. I practice almost every day, so I like the way my paintings turn out. If your painting doesn't turn out the way you are anticipating, that's okay. That happens to everyone. Artists, students, everyone. Nobody is ever satisfied 100% with their project the first time. So if you are not happy with the way your dog turns out, if you don't like it, flip it over and do it again. Take one of the other projects that you worked on in the past, do it again over on the back side. For example, my mandala that I painted in our second class, I didn't totally love it, so I flipped it over and this is my dog. So I practiced one dog and I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm gonna do another one with you. So if it doesn't turn out the way you want, flip the page over and do it again. Practice, practice, practice. You'll get happier and you'll learn the way to move your brush and the colors mixing, and all you can do is practice. And I hope that you have fun. This dog is, like I said, this is way trickier than the past 2 paintings, so it might not turn out perfect, and that's okay. But let's just get started. So I have my reference photo. As you can see, I already drew on it for my first project that I did, but that's okay. I'm gonna just do it again. So flip over your dog, and we're going to do the same technique as we did with the mandala. Color on the back with pencil, so we can transfer the basic shapes of the dog. Color on the back with pencil. So I hope you could hear me when I said that. Color in the back so you can transfer the basic shapes to the paper. So I have my masking tape. I'm going to tape down my paper on the bottom and then tape down. Sorry, I'm not used to filming videos, so I'm doing loud things while I'm talking. I hope you can still hear me. Just bear with me. I am obviously not a professional video maker. I'm taping down my paper. Oh, sorry, you can't even totally see that. There we go. I hope my camera is oriented in the right way this time, because it was really annoying when I was editing the video and it was so skinny and vertical instead of taking up the whole screen. But this is something new to me that I'm learning as we go. Okay, I have my paper taped down on all 4 sides, and I'm going to gently, I guess I forgot to tell you, I just cut a square of paper to roughly the size of the head. We're not going to be drawing all of the weird paper around it. I just like the look of the dog in this one. So go ahead and cut a piece of paper to the right size. Mine is like the length of my hand. It's a square kind of, but whatever you want. We will use the leftover scraps for something else. I was thinking maybe like a bookmark. I really like painting bookmarks because they're fast, but we'll see what happens after. So put your paper down, try not to smudge it, because I did that last time and had to erase all of the smudge marks, which was kind of annoying. So get it lined up where you want it. And grab some tape. Oh, darn. My Lego tripod is not in the best of shape right now. Okay. I'm gonna tape this down. It doesn't have to be taped down as securely as your paper because we're gonna be taking it off right away, but this is just so it doesn't shift while we're doing our tracing. Okay, and I'm just gonna trace out the basic shapes of the dog because we don't want too many pencil lines that we'll have to try to erase afterwards because the erasing doesn't always work that well. With my paints that I use myself, they're a little bit more expensive and you can erase pretty well with them, but these ones aren't quite the same. So what we're gonna do is do the basic shapes. I'm gonna do the outline of the whole head first. And the ear. You want to press pretty hard so that it shows through, but not too hard, obviously. I am not going to do all of the hairs and stuff, obviously, but just the outline of the face, outline of the ears. As you can see in my last one, I did the inside of the ear. I'm not doing that again because it was really annoying for me to erase all that. So we'll continue looking at the reference photo afterwards for the details, but this is just for the basic shapes. I am going to outline where the fur is a different color because that was really helpful for me when I did it myself. Outline the muzzle and the mouth, the nose, oh, the eyes, that's pretty important. I'm going to outline where the eyes are really dark, then the actual eye itself, the white part, the black. And as you can see in the reference photo, the dog has a little bit of white on his eye, like the reflection, and I left that blank in my photo, in my painting, and I was really happy with that, how that turned out. So I'm going to outline the white reflection as well because I loved how that looked. Outline the eye and the black around the eye. Okay, I hope I have everything. And we know there'll be more fur down below. I'm not going to do that. Oh, I guess the black fur here. Okay. I think I have the basic shapes, so I'm going to take that off. And there we go. Okay, so as you can see, my photo wasn't exactly lined up perfectly, so mine's a little bit off to the right, but that's okay. He looks pretty good, and I think we're ready to get painting. So grab your brush and your wire and your rag, and we will get started. I just have to go grab a rag. I seem to have forgotten mine. Make sure you have nice, fresh, clean water, and we will get started. Okay, I have my rag. If you need to pause the video to go grab that stuff, just go ahead and do that. But I am ready to go. I wish my camera view was a little bit bigger so you could see my paint. I'll try and rotate the color I'm using so you can see it. Oh, maybe over here. Okay, so with watercolor, although, like I think I mentioned this earlier in the past, but although we have white paint, it's not great to rely on that white paint because it doesn't make a perfect pure white and it's transparent. So it will still show colors that are underneath it. So what we do in watercolor is we rely on the white from the paper to show white. This dog has a lot of white in his fur. Here around the nose is very, very white. So we're just gonna, for the most part, leave those areas clean of paint. We don't want to rely on the white paint to get those areas really white, so we're going to leave that just plain. With watercolor, we start from the lightest colors at the first, and then we work our way up and build up to the darkest and the details at the end. So what I'm going to do first is mix kind of a yellowy brown for this lighter shade of fur, maybe for a little bit of the ears, and we'll paint all the sections that have that in it first. So when I did it the first time, let's grab your water and put some water into the yellow ochre. Put some water into the light brown. And I should have cleaned up the middle of my palette. I'm going to take my rag, get a little wet, and wipe out this middle here because I want to be able to mix. Okay, I'm going to clean that out. I'll leave that chunk of red that's in there. I don't know why that's in there, but... So I'm going to take a whole bunch of water on my paintbrush, sorry, and mix this yellow ochre. Get some of that over here. So this dog has kind of like a yellowy reddish fur, as you can see, but you can, it doesn't have to be exact. Obviously all animals have different color fur, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm just gonna add a little bit more yellow to that. Okay, that seems all right. So we want this paint to be nice and watery because we're doing a first wash, and as we paint from lighter to darker. So we are going to take this paint that we mixed up and paint anywhere where he has that light brown kind of goldy color fur. We're going to do a wash around there. So we're going to do it around his eyes here. This painting we will be doing in multiple layers to get all the details and so that the paint doesn't run into each other. We don't want it to bleed together and kind of look like a lump. So we're going to let it dry in between all of these layers. So I'm going to learn from my mistakes when I did it my own at the beginning and try not to paint over the pencil marks so that I can erase them once this layer is dried. Okay, I'm going to do the ear. There's some pink in the middle, so I'm going to avoid the middle for now and just do that outside edge. So he has that black up here. His fur is kind of black with some brown, but there is some brown shining through. So I'm gonna do it over there just to make sure to not do it in the middle here where his fur is pure white. We're avoiding that. And okay, as you can see underneath his eye here, looking down at it, it's his right, but it's pretty dark here because of the shadow coming from his muzzle. So I'm going to make the paint a little bit thicker there. It might take a little bit longer to dry, but we want to get some of that shadow in there. Okay, and we'll do some brown where that black is going to be. And again, the outside of the ear. Okay, let me just take a look at the reference photo. I'm gonna maybe put a little bit in here. We will cover around his eyes with black, but okay, that looks pretty good, and I'm happy with that for my first layer. So go ahead and give that a few minutes to dry, and I'll meet you back here when it's dried. Okay, so now my paint is all completely dried, and I'm going to come in and start erasing some of these marks. So grab your eraser. If you don't have one of these nice white erasers, you can go ahead and just use the back of a pencil, but I find these erasers are much easier. You can rub a little bit harder if you want to, because we will be doing more layers to the paint. But everywhere where you don't need the reference marks anymore, go ahead and try to erase those as best as you can. If you can't get it all up, that's okay. So I'm gonna leave the eye, I'm gonna leave the nose, the mouth, but just like around the fur when you don't need that anymore. Okay, I am going to come in with the brown now. So I have my clean water and I have my palette. We're gonna have to do a little bit of mixing for this one to get a nice dark brown, because our brown is kind of reddish. So I'm gonna get some water mixed in with our black and mix some of that in with the brown to get a dark brown color. So take some of your brown in the mixing well, add water to it, and then get the wet black mixed a bit, and then add that until you're happy with the color. Okay, make sure it's all super mixed together before we start painting. Okay, I'm happy with that, so I'm gonna get started working on some of the finer details. I am going to be, for this layer, we're going to do the black, as you can see around his eyes. There's the darker brown fur, and on his head, and a little bit under his chin. So I'll just get going here. So remember when we were, I don't remember what we were doing, but if you want to do the fine, thin lines, use so light pressure, and when you want to do thicker lines, push down on your brush and fan it out. I'm going to do that a lot in this painting, and I do it a lot when I'm painting floral too. So we want some of this brown up here, and then, oops, I think I probably should have done the pink in his ears first, but hopefully that doesn't interfere too much. We'll do that after this. Should be okay. This isn't exactly, oops. So I am just looking at my reference photo, and I think I went a little bit too heavy-handed with my brown. So I think I might use my rag to soak up a little bit above his eye and redo that. That's what I kind of like about watercolors, is that you can do that. I wanted a bit more with the light brown above his eye, so I'm going to put a little bit of that up there. Okay, it doesn't have to look exactly like the reference photo either. It's its own doggy, and it might look a little bit different, and that's totally fine. I'm gonna do under his eye. And above. Because I did that light brown there, it's kind of running, but that's okay. And then this eye too, around the eye. And up here. as you can see, it looks a little bit weird at first, and that's okay. When you do it in painting in layers like this, it doesn't always look great at first. Oops, I think I put too much black in that section. I'm going to, yeah, see, things don't always work out perfectly for me either, but that's okay. I'm gonna soak up some of that black. I don't know why it was so black. I must not have mixed it very well. I'm gonna redo that with just the dark brown. So my pattern here is definitely going to be different than the reference photo because I accidentally painted too much brown in this area, but that's okay. It is all good. It doesn't have to look exactly like the dog in the picture. So I just put a little bit of shading here, as you can see on this side of his nose, because his nose is casting a bit of a shadow on this side under his eye here. Okay, he also has some of the dark brown here under his collar, so I'm just going to squish a little bit of that under there. And he also has a little bit over here. We'll put details in later, so we just want some basic shapes. And we are going to do a little bit of pink for his ear. So what I'm going to do first is take, hopefully yours is still a little bit wet, but take this light, oh, can you see? The light brown that we mixed at the beginning and add, we're going to want water. So what I'm going to do is soak up a bunch of water on my brush, tap off the excess, and then scoop up some more of the paint. So it's going to be mixed with the water that was on the brush first, so it'll be lighter. And if it's not light enough, just dip your brush in the water. Oh, you can't see. Just dip your brush in the water and tap off the extra, because we want this light in here. So I just have the brown we're going to start with, because he also has a bit of brown, light brown fur in the middle. So we're starting with that, and then we'll dab in a little bit of pink in the middle of his ear using the wet and wet technique. So we will need, for the pink we'll need, oh, my white is loose. We'll need white in the middle and red, just a tiny bit of red. Wash off my brush so we don't get too much red in there. Mix that in and see. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Super light pink, maybe a tiny bit more. There. We will be, so the insides of his ears are still wet, so we just want to put a little bit of pink here at the base where it starts from, and it will, as you can see, mix in with the light brown that we just did. If you want to just kind of dab it around to make it spread out more, or take it places where you want it to go ahead and do that with just a wet brush. Like I said, we'll finish up the details after, so we're just getting the basic shapes down now. Okay, let me take a look at the picture. Maybe we will do a little bit of the dark brown where his mouth is. So like that triangle kind of shape underneath. And up here, we're gonna put some more kind of red, purplish brown in there later, and then his chin. Maybe we'll do the purplish brown now, actually. Well, I'm going to take on your brush. Oh, it's so hard to do with this little camera view. Take some of the dark brown that we were using before and separate it a bit. Oh, I just don't want to squish. I'll hold it up so I don't squish my painting. So separate a little bit of the dark brown that we were just using, and then get a clean brush, get some red, and mix that in with the brown. And that makes kind of like a purpley reddish brown. That's what we're going to use for his lips. Maybe add a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to use that here. You know how dogs have that kind of reddish purpley lip. Okay. All right, I think I'm good with that for now. Oh, the brown, I don't know. I'm looking at my reference photo and his mouth area is definitely more black than brown. So I'm gonna add a little bit of straight black into that to mix in with the brown that we did. And then we will just let that dry and come back in a bit and see how it went. Okay, see you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back a few minutes later and I'm going to start working on some of the details in his fur. So, as you can see, my original painting and the reference are not quite the same. I'm going for my own style in this, and the colors and stuff are a little bit different. I'm going to do some of these squiggle lines to denote the to show the fur, and I might do a little bit more red or brown like I did here. If you look at the reference photo, it's more of a yellowy kind of brown, but I kind of like the look of the reddish brown. So I'm going to start by I'm going to mix together some of the reddish brown and the black again, like we did before. Mine's still wet, but I'm going to put a little bit more reddish brown in there, and that is going to be the color I'm going to do. So I like to just I'm not going to paint every single hair. That is just going to take too long, and I don't really like the look of that personally. I don't think, for me, I like kind of the less realistic look, because the realistic look can be so hard to get, and you have to do it so perfectly or else it looks weird. I'm just going to start doing squiggles like this to kind of show that there's fur there. And leave some patches with no fur. Oops, there's a little fuzz in there. I'm gonna kind of do it under the eye. And I'm gonna do some of the lighter yellowy brown that we mixed up too, and kind of mix it in there. I have some of the darker blackish brown, and I'm going to do some fur marks in this section that we were doing. And let's see. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about his cheeks here. That looks a little weird to me. I might take off a little bit of the color with my rag and see if that helps. Yeah, that looks okay. I'm just doing the light brown here now. And okay, and I think, let me check my reference photo. I'm going to do a little bit over here too. Okay. Now I'm going to go and get the dark browny black that we made again. And I'm going to add a little bit extra black to it. You do whatever color you kind of want. And we're going to do some fur marks up here where his fur is really dark. I'm leaving a little bit of spot to put some more of the light brown in here where I messed up. Okay, I'm liking the way that's looking. I hope your guys' is looking good. Feel free, if you ever do something that you don't like I did, just go ahead and mop it up with the dry cloth, and that should usually take a lot of the color that you don't want out. It's not perfect, obviously, but it does help. And around the eye. Okay, and just keep looking back at the reference photo and seeing what you like and what colors you want. And like I said, your colors don't have to be exactly the same as the reference photo. All dogs are different, and use that to your advantage. If you do something that's a little bit different, that's okay. I'm just putting a little bit more dark in his collar here. And let's check the photo. Okay, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more detail on his ear now. So I'm gonna mix up more of this yellow ochre and the brown, and then do a nice kind of outline on just the edge of his ear. So you can see on his ear how around the edge and in this area it's a bit darker, and then so just using the tip of your brush where it's thin, and the thick belly of the brush where it's thick, to outline his ear. And then once it's all outlined, depending on what you like, if you like it like that, go ahead and leave it. If not, I'm going to take my brush, wash it completely off, get the excess water off, and just kind of blend this in so it's not such a harsh line. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So outline it based on the reference photo. And then with the wet brush, blend it in. All right. So I think at this point we will let it dry and come back to it in a bit. Okay, so that is all dry. And now I'm going to do a little bit of kind of like a creamy tan in the neck area. So you can see in the reference photo, around his nose, it's almost completely white, like pure white, and up here it's almost pure white. I might do a little bit to show where the top of his head is, but I want to do a little bit of cream here under the chin where there's a shadow. So for that, I'm just going to take a tiny bit of this reddish brown, and I'm going to take a whole bunch of white. So load up your white with water. Oops. Oops, I got some black in there. Okay, I'm going to dump that and start over. Do not want black in there. So I'm just dumping that into my water and starting over. Okay, so get a whole bunch of water and mix up a bunch of white. And then in the middle, I hope there's a clean spot. So bring over a bunch of white into the middle mixing palette, and then I added a tiny touch of brown. Oh my gosh, where's that black coming from? And then add just a bunch of white to the brown to make a nice, really pale, kind of almost like a cream color instead of white. And I'm going to use that to make some shadows under his chin and a little bit of hair marks like we did with the brown. Okay, I'm also, I'm gonna do a little bit of this same white here along his nose in the center there where it's really close. And I'm gonna do a little bit of that same creamy white kind of on the bottom of his nose where you can see it's a little bit pink. You know how dogs have, you can see their skin a little bit by their nose there, so I have a bit of that there. And okay, now I'm gonna let that dry and maybe do a little bit more detail work, and then we'll do one final drying, and then we'll do the eyes and nose, which are going to be the darkest details. So I think I might use a little bit of the light kind of reddish brown and do a little bit of fur in the ears on the inside there. Maybe shape with the same color, do a little bit of definition in the fur. Just fixing up any area that looks a little weird. And, oh, you're right. Okay, so what I did in my picture that I'm just noticing now, I'm going to take, if you still have that, a bit of that creamy color we made, I'm going to take a little bit of that and put it on the inside of his nose, just in a curved way, just to show that I know that skin, or that fur is so white, but I just want to show that there's some shape, a curved shape to his muzzle. It's not just flat, like for example, a pug's nose would be just flat, but he has a nice nose with some dimension. So I'm gonna do that with a little bit of the creamy tan, just to show that his nose has some shape to it. Okay. I think I'm good with that for now. Oh, well, let's see. If there's anything you want to fix, go ahead and fix that. I think I might try to do it a little bit on his mouth here. And that was just black that I did that with. And maybe a little on his chin. And just want to develop a little bit of shadow underneath his chin, because as you can see, he has that in the picture. So I'm just getting a little of that cream and maybe a little bit of brown in there too. Okay, I'm happy with the way the shadow looks there, so I am going to take another break, and this will be our last break until we do the final details. So I'll see you back in maybe 5 minutes. So mine is all dry, and I'm gonna get started on the final details. I'm not totally loving how dark his mouth area is, So I think I might try to get a little bit of that off. So what I'm gonna do is get water in my brush and put water on the spots where it's so dark. And then take my rag and gently push, just push down and don't smudge from side to side, just gently push down. And then we're gonna lift it up and see. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that's okay. So I'm gonna get started doing the details of the eye and the nose. So for the eye, I'm gonna get that reddish brown again, I think, or maybe a little bit. I might just do plain brown, not mixing it with anything, and see how that looks for his eye color. So I'm gonna do a circle. Just remember, like I said at the beginning, there's that reflection on his left side eye, and I want that to be just plain white. So I'm gonna make sure I leave that plain white when I'm doing the brown. So I'm gonna do the brown in a circle and leave his eye. And then I'm gonna do the same on this side, except there's only a tiny reflection in this eye, in his right side eye. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of a white spot for that, but it's a lot smaller than the other eye. Okay. So I have the brown, and I'm gonna let that dry while I work on the black nose. So the nose is easy in the sense that we don't have to mix any colors. The nose will just be straight black. But as you can see, some of the nose is darker than others spots. So I'm gonna start by just keep a good look of your reference photo to see the kind of areas that are the darkest. Oh, there's a little bit of fluff in there. The middle here is super dark, and you'll want to leave a white patch here, and then the nostril, and what, like on the other side. Up here is pretty dark. And then it's lighter over on this side. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water to my brush and scrape off the excess, and that looks pretty good. And now I just have a completely cleaned off brush, and I'm going to spread this around so it's a little bit lighter in this spot. So we will let that dry, and what I also am going to do is take a wet brush with no paint on it and and just do a little bit of water here to get some of that black from his nose down under his lip, because there, as you can see in the picture, there's some of that gray from under his nose, and I want that shade there, but I don't want it. Oh, it's starting to bleed. I just wanted a tiny bit of black in there, not that much. So I'm gonna scoop up some of that. And yeah, you just want to shade a shadow of the black underneath his nose. Because even if you have a dog at home, you can look under their nose. It's the same kind of thing. That looks pretty good. Just a little bit of bleeding. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to go in and do the black in his eyes now. I think the brown is mostly dry. So black in the center. Oh, no, it's not dry at all. At least that side is not dry. It bled a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. And this one, you want to just make sure you do just the half moon in the center so that the reflection is still there. And he has black in the center of his eye here. And his whole eye is kind of outlined in a nice thick black. So with a decent amount of pressure on your brush, and under. I'm not exactly sure how this is looking. Oops. It looks a little strange, but that's okay. I'm gonna do some black around his eye here too. He has a little bit of the white of his eye showing, so I'm gonna leave some of that white. That's a little bit darker of black than I was hoping, I think, but that's okay. His, somehow I want to fix this. Oh, I think I'm gonna do a little outline, maybe in pen after, if I can't get it to look great, because it's hard sometimes to get the paint to do exactly what you want. I think I need a little bit more of the eye brown on this side of his eye, because the pupil is a little bit larger than I was hoping for. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna suck that up a little bit and try again. That's one thing I do like about watercolors, is that if it's still wet, you can often fix it by sucking it up and trying again. And I think I might go in and do some of the finer details with a black pen at the end. Okay, I think I might put a little bit more definition under his chin a little. Oops, it's okay. I put a little bit too much color there, so I'm gonna get just a wet brush and spread that out a little bit. And that color is kind of nice. I'm gonna do a little bit here too. That's not too bad. I don't mind that. I think it looks okay. Like I said earlier, it does take a lot of practice, and it might not look exactly the way you were thinking. And, oh, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of touch up, but what my #1 tip to you would be, do not compare your painting to my painting. Do not compare your painting to the reference photo. This reference photo is not we're not trying to duplicate it exactly. So I'm gonna throw my reference photo out. I don't want you comparing your picture to the reference photo, and I don't want to compare mine to the reference photo. From now on, I'm just gonna do what I think details need to be done. So I'm gonna do a little bit of detailing around his eye, give him a little bit of an eyebrow. With the dark brown, I'm gonna do a bit more detailing in his fur here. I'm going to do a little bit in his mouth. A little definition in his chin, a little definition in his muzzle. And you do, now that we're doing details, oh, right, almost forgot to do a tiny bit of cream up here on the top of his head to show that it's not just a white gaping spot. Let's see. I really like how my nose turned out. How do you guys like your nose? I feel like that's the trickiest part because it's just black on black, and you want to kind of make sure that they know that there's nostrils and different shades of black. I'm gonna do a little bit of black bleeding up on the top of his nose too, because at least my dog has that kind of thin fur at the top, so you can kind of see the darker skin underneath. There we go. Okay, I am pretty happy with that. Like I said, I know this one is taking a lot of layers, and it's kind of a pain when you're doing it virtually. So you can't exactly, you have to wait. Well, I guess you would have to wait in person too, but I'm just doing a little detail. You do what you feel your dog needs in his detail work. I like the way that his left cheek looks. I think this area could use a little bit more detail, but so I know I said this is our last layer, but that's just the kind of the way watercolor works, is that you just gotta work up the layers. So I'm gonna do one more layer with just black pen. So we'll let the details dry and come back and finish up with the black pen. But I'm liking how he looks, and I would love, love, love to see a picture of your dog. So I'll see you in a few more minutes to do the black pen. Okay, for the final round, I'm just going to do a little bit of detail with my black pen. I'm going to outline the eyes a little bit to give it a bit more definition. And like, you can just define whatever you want. The black pen is helpful because it's a lot more finer than the paintbrush. My black nose ran a little bit more than I was hoping, but that's okay. Just kind of separate that detail with my paintbrush, with the black pen. Whatever you feel like doing is fine. Maybe put a little squiggles in the fur down here or up here. There, I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with him, he looks cute, and I hope you throw out your reference photo like I did so that you can just look at your art and appreciate it for what it is and not just try and compare it to the reference photo, because it really doesn't matter. The photo is just for shapes and colors. I'm happy with mine. I hope you're happy with yours, and I hope you share yours with me so I can take a look and see how it looks. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you again next week for our final project.